So let's keep looking here. Let's dig in just a little bit deeper now. What is the purpose of government?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. And I think it's a question that we forget to continue asking along the way. But really, when we look at the Constitution, the primary duty of the government is to punish the wicked, to protect the people, and really to just articulate a path for liberty. And that's really what's what the Constitution does. And it's what it lays out a path for us to do and gives us a direction to navigate through the day. So the government's duty is pretty limited. And I think that that's an important thing, especially the federal government. The federal government's duty is extremely limited according to the Constitution. And unfortunately, we've let the federal government be heavy-handed for way too long with way too many things in its basket.
And Hilber asks, what are the primary differences between Paul and Lance?
Yeah, I would. One of the best places you can start finding the articulated differences would visit my website and compare the issues that are listed out there. Listen, here's how kind of I articulate it whenever I'm talking to people. If you want big government, if you want a government that's overreaching, then you continue electing the same representation that you currently have. But if you want a limited government, if you want a small, strong government, but limited in its reach into your private lives, then elect people like me who believe the Constitution and want to follow the Constitution when we're in office. So I think you could probably stretch that over many things and look at the voting record. Obviously, I don't have a voting record to compare with the current representation, but you could certainly go and look and research the voting record of the current representation in District 24, and you would see that near all of them vote and lean very heavy-handed toward big government and quite frankly liberal paths that really are in contradiction even to their own party platform many times.
Another question that I've got that I prepared are, what are the greatest challenges facing your district right now?
Yeah, so I'm in District 24, and I guess I would back up and say, first of all, what a blessed city to live in. I mean, this is really a great city. It's a great region in the state of Idaho, and so I'm really grateful for that. And I want to make sure that I'm always communicating that. There's no better place. There's no place I'd rather be than right here in District 24. Some of the great challenges that we are facing is obviously the growth that not only District 24 is facing, but really the whole of the state of Idaho. How do you manage growth without government overreach? How do you manage it and that it becomes something that the market takes care of itself without government interference or manipulating and creating havoc along the way? I think that our education, probably somewhat related to the growth that we're experiencing. We've seen new schools built in the last several years, and at this rate of growth, it seems like that's going to be a natural and an ongoing issue that this district is going to face. This district, all of these things really appear to have a lot of growth issues tagged to them, but we've got this somewhat city government, but we have police and fire department issues, needing to have more space, more locations as the city continues to grow. But I think those are things that are partnered in relationship in tandem with the state. But those things, how do we handle those things and encourage those things locally from the state level, while at the same time giving the local complete and primary priority on those matters? I would also add here, Shane, that a serious issue in District 24 is that there's a Planned Parenthood here in the city, and on average, we're talking about 190 to 200 babies are murdered every year right here in District 24. And that's a great challenge. How do we deal with that? What is the right path to address that? So those are some of the things that are in my mind about great challenges we're facing in this district.
Comes from James Dallas Jr. And James, I'm going to break your question into two parts because I was unaware of this, and being unaware of this, if something seems to remind me about that, you'll understand in a minute when I ask the question. But I don't know that everybody will understand this question without me kind of preceding it. Um, it sounds like you spent some time in Haiti.
Yes, I have.
And the second part of that question then would be, how does your experience being held in Haiti affect your decision for running for legislature? So if you would
Yeah.
explain that part of the question that says held in Haiti.
Yeah, exactly. So 10 years ago, after one of those devastating earthquakes in Haiti happened, me and five people from my church, five men from my church, and five folks from a church in the Meridian area traveled to Port-au-Prince to do some disaster relief. We're really concentrating on giving some humanitarian care to some orphans that were in need of some temporary housing. So as a result of, it's a long story and one that I love to talk about because it's had an enormous impact on my life. But probably for the breadth of this program, I'll just say that I spent 19 days after being falsely accused of kidnapping and trafficking and criminal association, spent 19 days in a Haitian jail. And in a Napoleonic judicial system, which the nation of Haiti operates under. So it's the exact opposite of the blessed constitution we have here, where you're innocent until you until you're proved that you're guilty of a crime. In a Napoleonic judicial system, you're guilty until you prove your innocence. And so that's why we spent 19 days in jail, because the accusations that were levied against us through Child Protective Services, United Nations, UNICEF, those organizations, we are automatically held by the government in a Haitian jail for 19 days until we proved our innocence. And so if I can say, how has that impacted, I think part of that question is, how has it impacted my decision to run for public office?
Yeah,
This is no secret.
the exact question was, how does your experience being held in Haiti affect your decision for running for legislature? So I know I kind of threw you a curveball there, so I want to make sure we're answering his question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't count that as a curveball, because we actually even have a spot on our website where I explain that and talk about it. And so it's not something we shy away from. It's actually, I mean, I travel to Haiti on a regular basis. We're there 2, sometimes 3 times a year. We have 60 children in a home that Eastside Baptist Church takes complete care of. We provide education and food. We provide health care for, in total, between the children and the adults who work in our home, Haitians that Eastside Baptist Church takes care of. We provide living and good living for close to 90 people who would otherwise not have any other care that God gives us the opportunity to provide for. So, there's a lot of things that I've obviously have experienced through that, and every one of them. By the way, if anyone wants to talk to me about them, I really love to talk about those hard days, those confusing days that many people were witnessing. But and we completely proved our innocence on all accounts, and we walked away from there with the blessed kindness of being able to take care of a lot of children. So I'm glad to answer that question, and perhaps others that may come in as well.
This comes from some of the questions